Good afternoon, Saints. Hope you're having an awesome day on the Lord's Day and a wonderful Mother's Day to any of you that might be listening. I don't know, I'm worried that I'm drilling myself down into a rabbit hole here a little bit, but the last two videos I did had to do with some announcement. It started, I think, with this guy here, Neil Keenan. And you can go read all the background or watch the last two videos, but him claiming that a soft coup of the US government had taken place already, and that, among other things, the Federal Reserve notes, the dollars that we carry and all that, were going to be converted and there was going to be US currency, and that some wide-scale theft that occurred around gold and that type of thing was going to get resolved in this, and that, what we would call the New World Order is in the process of being dismantled, and there'll be announcements of lots of people being jailed, which obviously that catches your attention, right? But I don't have any knowledge of this gentleman or his background or his validity. And so I kind of brushed it off saying, well, it's just part of the big deception that's going on. And then, was it yesterday or the day before, May 6th, so that would have been Friday. This is the actual, whitehouse.gov executive order facilitation of presidential transition. And I started reading this, and it's like, well, President Obama just did this executive order restating the process with which presidential transition was going to happen. And I thought, well, and there's details in there, and it talks about these different people groups that were going to be involved in the transition and emergency situation, all this type of thing. And that was partly kind of what was going on here with this Neil guy, saying that the military, General Dunford, was somehow had authority and had already taken place behind the scenes, control of the government, or the position of president, if you want to say, and that Obama was just playing along until the transition could complete under an agreement. And so then to see Obama signing an executive order like the very next day, basically making the rules for a presidential transition, kind of blew my mind, because I didn't put much thought on this article. I just saw it as, look at all the swirling deception that's going on. And then this thing comes out. Now I got to be honest here, it's like more information is coming in this same vein, and it's like either this is going to be one of those big internet hoaxes, or something is going on, and I don't want to be part of the former and replicate stuff that isn't true. But on the last video I just did, a brother posted a link, and it was, ignore this channel here. It's he's just repeating an interview, and I didn't know who this David Wilcock was, but in the interview he made reference to that he had YouTube videos with millions of hits, and that he had this huge subscriber base, and blah blah blah, all this stuff. And he claimed to be interviewing a current Pentagon insider who was systematically describing how the transition is taking place. as well, and the history of it and why it's occurring, and 2-hour show or something like that. Yeah, 2-hour show. And I got through about 3/4 of it, and okay, Again, I didn't know who David Wilcock was. A quick Google search was concerning just for me. I don't know if anybody's a follower of this guy, but the very first thing that comes up is it says he's a New Age author. Now, I don't know if that's the same David Wilcock or whatever, but red alert right there, first thing that came up. But putting that aside, the interview seemed semi-legit, mainly because when he recounted the history of how this came about and what happened and all this type of thing, there was scads of detail. You'd either have to be super creative in making all that up or have some sort of background in it. But, so I checked that up and I said, And then another guy I've always put in the big question mark bucket because I don't know what to do is this Dr. William Mount. On one hand, he gives credit to Christ and brings up God and praying and all that on his channel. And so, as a Christian, I'm sort of drawn to that. But the other hand, in the way and the nature he talks about stuff, I mean, there's an element to, because he said it, that's the way it has to be, which, rubs me the wrong way a little bit. But the reason why I listen to it is because he's always giving a perspective on stuff that, if you question, well, is this all rumor or is there anything to it? He goes through a lot of the history of some of these issues, and he at least gives his perspective. And so I put him in the bucket of just a curious. I don't want to downplay anybody because I don't know who is closer to the truth and who's self-delusional, right? That's the whole problem on the internet. But here it goes. Just today now, this Dr. William Mount puts this thing out. He claims, and he's claimed he's been tied into the government and like an ambassador into Russia, it sounds like. But he claims he just got a intel brief from his friends. I don't know if it was FBI or CIA, but they're confirming some of this. And his portion, he was told to read something to everybody. It's on this video here, and when he read it, it was just basically a threat to the Congress in the same vein as the other videos where he recounted the history of the Constitution or the formation of the 13 original colonies, the founding documents, up to the Constitution, the signers of the Constitution, what authority they had in terms of when Britain claimed, control of the United States and all this type of thing. And long story short, he claims basically the same thing, that Congress is going to be, well, he threatens them. I don't know. I'm assuming that means arrest if they don't support moving back to the original founding and organizing principles of the country. And there was like an implied, come listen to the thing, it was like an implied they're going to be arrested or something's going to happen here. But he also said in the same vein that Obama's plan, and it was already in a 2012 document that he signed, was to nuke Russia, China, Syria, and forget the other one he named in the list. And he, this Dr. William Mount thinks that is Obama's intent. And reason why, again, I bring this up is that's exactly what people that saw the correspondence dinner, and when Obama at the end dropped the mic like it was a bomb and then gave the Britain version of flipping everybody off, among other things he said and did in that correspondence dinner, it led a lot of people to speculate, well, that's it, that's his final, swan song, if you want to put a word to it. And so, these things are just boiling out here. And 2 or 3 of these different sources also talked about Benjamin Fulford, which I avoided digging into him. Every time I go digging into what that guy is saying, I personally get kind of a creepy feeling. I don't know why, but that's enough for me. I set it aside. If you follow him or if you know a lot more about him and everything's legit, then just forget the comment. I'm just telling you my personal, when I listen to him and hear him and stuff, the few times I have, something didn't sit right, and so I just, I let it go. So I'm just bringing you up to speed. I don't know what to do with any of this, but I want to go back to Scripture. So we're promised a strong delusion for those that don't accept Christ, 2 Thessalonians 2, and we're not promised, when we see these things begin, in Luke it says, look up for your redemption draws nigh. I sort of think there's that passage and others that lead us to believe that we don't come up to the brink of, the prophetic end times, and then it all gets resolved and everything's fine again for a while. I don't see a picture of that in the Bible. I don't see that notion in the Bible. I see the birth pangs, the progressive getting worse, getting worse, getting worse, all the way to the delivery, when the full second coming of Christ. That's the picture that the Bible paints. So what I'm worried about is the passage, for instance, 1 Thessalonians 5, when it says, when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes upon them as a thief in the night. But it says, you, brethren, aren't in darkness. You're children of light, children of the day, that day should not overtake you like a thief in the night. So the church is watching. The church sees the end times coming. The church is ready for the redemption. And as I pointed to in the other video, stuff that's coming out on the internet that's following this theme of the soft coup and the takedown of the, quote, New World Order and the takedown of the Fed and the reissuing of money, put it in the context of go back to sleep. It's all over. All the bad stuff. The one article I read, the gentleman was saying, well, not only is the Federal Reserve being put down, but all of those schemes, like he talked about the holographic satellite projections that people talk about for Project Bluebeam. He said the satellites have been eliminated already, and he was recounting all these things that were sort of pointing to end-time apocalyptic events as already having been foiled. And I really wonder if there's anything to this, and again, if this is just one big internet hoax, just ignore these videos. It's just there's enough of these sources coming out now where either it's a mega internet hoax or there's something to it. And if there's something to it, I really wonder if this is a signal to us that, we are right at the brink. Because what happens? Let's say there's a soft coup in process or something like that. Let's say somebody actually took a swipe at the New World Order or trying to take stuff down. Well, we know that the prince of the power of the air, Satan, is going to have his way and have his plan. God's going to ordain it and allow it for the last 7 years. And so, to me, if anybody is making a major move, at some point it's either going to have to play into Satan's plan, or it is Satan's plan, or Satan is going to overcome this plan and get his way. But either way, it spells bad news for the earth and for the people here, and it spells the triggering of the end time events. So I think we're right on the cusp. I mean, if you guys have better info, like I say, I feel really squishy about this because I didn't know who Neil Keenan was. I don't know who David Wilcock is, and the only thing I look up about the guy says he's a new ager. I've semi-queasy about this, I'll say brother, Dr. William Mount. He professes Christ. He does in this video and all that. So I'm going to say brother, but you know, he comes out of left field with some of the statements he's making that just, you know, I sometimes question, right? And so I don't know what to do with this, Saints, but I introduced it 2-3 days ago on this channel, and then now I don't know how to walk it back because it seems like the story's building through a number of different independent people, and I don't even know if it should be walked back. This might be the signal for the end. I mean, like I say, Satan's in control of this world. God's going to allow it. The Bible tells us the end comes on as birth pangs. It doesn't appear to come and then back off for, you know, a bunch of years and then come again. I don't see a pattern of that in the Bible. So I have to believe that either what's happening here is part of deception and it's Satan's plan, or if it really is coming against Satan's plan, you know, I don't see a model in the Bible that says this is going to be successful, but maybe this is the trigger then that starts all these wars and the different things that, you know, the Bible does seem to point to. So I'll leave you there, Saints. If any of you guys have, I'm not really a follower of these political blogs, newsletters, and all this. If anybody has really good background on, like that interview from David Wilcock, if you listen to it, if you know who this guy is, if it's credible or uncredible, I'd really appreciate comments below because I'm out on thin ice. I've got no background for these guys. And just because they claim, oh, my videos have 1 million hits or whatever, doesn't mean a lot to me. I have no background with it. Same with this Dr. William Mount. You know, he professes Christ and he tries to get people to pray and all that, but he also encourages buying stored prepper food and says semi-braggadocious things about if he says it, then it must be because God's anointed him. He comes at stuff that way, which just, you know, you wonder. So there's a big bucket of swirling stuff. To me, it might be a signal of the end. That's why I really felt compelled. I got to come on here and say something. What if this is that signal of the end? That, you know, while they're saying peace and safety, while people think the New World Order is going to be jailed and contained and whatever, sudden destruction comes upon them. That could be the story that we're staring at right here. And so I felt like I had to say something. But again, if you guys have any better background on some of these characters, I'd really appreciate it. So God bless. Happy Mother's Day. Hope to see you soon.